Welcome, Night Owls, to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We break down fantasy, romantasy, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, character breakdowns, fan theories, and more. And this is your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Going forward from here, of course, there's going to be lots of spoilers for the Twilight Saga. This includes the movies and the books. This week, we're talking all things Eclipse, but this is your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark. And speaking of cozy, we are wearing matching shirts from the Lost Bros. They are theme park inspired apparel. Thank you so much, Lexi, for sending us these shirts. And that, again, is lostbrostradingco.com. Go ahead and check them out. Danny is holding up the shirt, which says Wreck My Plan. And around it is actually really cool. It's like the signature of all like book boyfriends.
Yeah, Rowan, Cassian, Azriel, Hunt, Lorcan, Dorian. These are all ACOTAR themed. And the fact that we had ACOTAR 6 news this past weekend.
Finally.
And now we're repping our Wreck My Plans, Taylor Swift ACOTAR inspired shirt. We love it. And oh my God. How did you feel about the ACOTAR news, Michelle?
It's finally happening. At first I was like,
Yeah.
She's posting. Like, I was like, it's another post. You know, we've been teased so much. And then when I saw the ACOTAR 6,
For real.
which, you know, people are debating on if it's 6 through 8 or if it's 6 like Arrow or 6 like D for draft. You know, whatever. We're getting a fucking book. That's all I care about.
That's all that matters.
I need
a book,
to know
finally.
Azriel's wingspan. It's the biggest. I need to know it. That is what is important to me for science purposes, of course.
Yeah, of course, for sciences. Yeah, exactly.
How did you
feel?
Science,
1000%. Oh yeah, same here. Obviously, I was incredibly excited. But yeah, the Lost Bros Trading Co. Thank you guys so much for sending us these incredible shirts, and how timely that you guys. I feel like you guys manifested that we were gonna have some like ACOTAR news, and you're like, I'm gonna send them some, you know, bad boy bookish teas, and that's awesome. So we always love supporting local, and we've got our local Orlando Lost Bros Trading Co. And yeah, thank you guys so much for sending that out to us. We appreciate it. Let's move into the drink of the episode. I'm calling this drink a very campy winter. And this drink is, of course, from another partnership that we have with Cocktails and Screams. I'm calling it a very campy winter, but that's mostly a play on the fact that this is Eclipse. So, of course, naturally, I had to call it that. But what it's called at Cocktails and Screams, the Supernatural, which also actually fits perfectly. It's gin, creme de violet, orange liqueur, cream topped with a flaming marshmallow. And it is incredible. It was really cool to watch. Got the flame going again. So we got the burnt marshmallow in there. It was a really fun experience to go and experience this with Cocktails and Screams. And again, if you go order the drink, it's called the Supernatural. So it fits regardless. I have, of course, had to rename it to fit our campy winterness that's happening at the end of Eclipse. But I loved this beverage. I took a very, very light sip of it, being that it has cream in it. I was very careful with that because I have a dairy allergy. But what I did taste of it was great. And highly recommend if you go check out Cocktails and Screams in downtown Orlando. We thank you very much for providing another drink of the episode for all of our Twilight coverage. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I love that it actually smelled like a campfire because, of course, I couldn't drink it either because I'm pregnant. But it smelled like, so you get the visual aspect. You have what it tastes delicious. The drink looks stunning. Being made was fun. And then it smelled like a campfire. Mm-hmm. So it's a fun drink.
They did that.
Very immersive drink.
Yeah. Yeah. And because they did that burnt marshmallow, you definitely get that campfire vibe. And, you know, also like hence the name, because you get the burnt marshmallow as part of the garnish for this drink. But okay. Let's immerse ourselves into Forks, Washington again. And this episode, we're exploring Eclipse, and we have a lot of feelings about this one. I think we have more feelings about this one than the first two. We do not have any special guests for this one, but it's going to be Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer, of course. So whether you're reading along with us or just here for the book talk, we are always glad that you're here. Our format for this episode is going to be Drink of the Episode, which we just covered, the whole book summary of Eclipse, and then perspective from first read versus reread, and we might kind of tie that in as we move along. Then we'll do the movie comparison versus the books versus the movies, because of course we watch that too. And then we'll talk about kind of the time that this was all released, because I think that's going to be very relevant for Eclipse specifically, and the facts revolving around this time period. And then we'll wrap things up with mystery Q&A.
Yes. So let's get into the summary. Eclipse is book 3, the third novel in the Twilight Saga. It continues the story of Bella Swan, a teenager caught between her love for the vampire Edward Cullen and her deep friendship with werewolf Jacob Black. This book kind of goes, I think, more past the friendship zone, but still not as deep as her love for Edward. In Eclipse, a string of mysterious murders occurs in nearby Seattle, hinting at the rise of a newborn vampire army. Bella faces growing danger while grappling with her conflicting feelings for Edward and Jacob. Edward proposes marriage, deepening Bella's struggle with her future, remaining human or becoming a vampire. Which, of course, marriage, vampire. Marriage obviously doesn't take precedent.
We save our responses. Save our responses for the end, Michelle.
Meanwhile, Victoria, a vampire seeking revenge for her mate's death. This happened all the way back in book 1, Twilight. She orchestrates the newborn vampire attacks. The Cullens and the werewolves actually form an alliance to protect Bella and confront Victoria's army. In the climactic battle, Victoria is defeated, but Bella must finally choose between her two loves. She chooses Edward and agrees to his conditions for turning her into a vampire, including marriage. So this novel focuses on the theme of choice, loyalty, and identity while building toward the series' conclusion in Breaking Dawn. So again, the summary is here. It's just so we all know where we're at as we're going into the comparisons and, talking a little bit more about the book.
Right. And so kind of getting into some of the themes here, a lot of the themes revolve around Bella's personal decisions between love, marriage, morality, and that kind of shapes this novel's direction. There's a lot of what I would call teenage angst in this one, maybe more so. And it's not supposed to be, because she's supposed to be like more mature now that she's 18 or whatever, but it just on page read very teenage angsty for me. Love triangle, but almost not even. And we'll get into some issues that I had with Edward later on. So then we have Bella struggling, right, with her human identity. And then she really does. She struggles in this book more than the other two I think the reason for that is that in New Moon, right, she has kind of given up this thought that she would be a vampire. She's just going to be Bella. She's going to be human. Edward's left. They've all left. And she had started to kind of think about life with Jacob, sort of, and what life with Jake would look like in the wolves and being a wolf girl. And, I think Eclipse, now that's back, and she's trying to figure out if she really wants to let go of humanity so young. And there's times where she's grappling with the decision to change at graduation, and then who is going to change her? Is it going to be Carlisle, Alice, Edward, and all the things that kind of go along with it that impact her family with that decision? And Edward makes a comment saying like, well, it won't matter so much in a couple decades or I'll be dead. And he was saying it as a joke, which I'm assuming when he's with the Cullens as a family, like they joke like that because it's been so long and they can, but like for Bella, that's not a joke.
Right.
So it falls very flat with her. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize like what I was saying there. But, she's having these struggles trying to grapple with her own identity. And then, of course, as I discussed, there's this love triangle definitely that exists where, again, Bella's struggling between, she's never really struggling with who she wants to be with. But again, it layers with identity, with hurting Jacob, with the want to kind of have it all, have her cake and eat it too.
Right.
And it really reminded me, it reminded me a lot of Faraday being like, oh, Breaking Dawn should have been Why Choose. And I'm like, now after reading Eclipse and the feels I had towards Edward, I'm like,
in the tent,
that's not actually not a terrible, right? It could have gone a different path. We could have just moved this into an adult genre and tried again. So I'm sure there's fanfic out there
absolutely.
that does this, and actually we'd have to try to look into where that is, but I don't even know if I'd read it. But I would be curious to know if anyone listening knows about any Twilight fan fiction that's related to that. I'd be curious if that exists. Let us know, message us. on any of our socials. We'd be curious to know. So then you have, of course, after that, unity and cooperation, because now the vampires and werewolves are going to start to have to overcome different things to be able to work together against a common enemy, which is Victoria and all the murders that are happening in Seattle. So now let's get into our first read versus a reread perspective. Michelle, start us off.
So as a first read, Edward is so toxic in this book. The first 200 pages, I'm like, this is all red flags. What do you mean you're going to control who she can and can't hang out with? What do you mean? Like, you left and she developed this relationship further and she created that bond, and you're going to tell her, you're going to dismantle her truck so she can't go see him when she wants to?
Real bad.
So toxic. I was just like,
yeah.
I've been in a relationship like this, like a controlling man, and I'm like, girl, run, like the entire time. And eventually he kind of like warms up to the cooperation because she sees it's better for Bella.
Takes way too long.
First 200 pages, I'm like, oh, no. We don't run towards red flags, girl. Like, come on. So that was really frustrating. And I understand that that was part of his like story arc and like more about his fear, but still, we don't control women. When we're afraid, we acknowledge that in ourselves, like that. So that part really frustrated me. And I'm curious as versus how you felt when you read it when you were younger versus now. Like, did you have the same like this is a red flag, or how did you think?
I read these in college, I guess it was. And for me, even then, Edward annoyed me in Eclipse, but not to the level today. This was my least favorite so far.
Absolutely.
Of my rereads, because I haven't read them since they came out, like I said. And I really struggled with Edward's character. And I'll be frank, I struggled with Jacob too, and his dismissal of all the things that went on to a certain degree. And also both of them treating Bella like
property.
She doesn't know anything. And Bella also feeling like she doesn't know anything all the time. And just, there were so many things that I highlighted that were quotes from her that would be like, oh, I was probably just seeing things. Or, oh, I saw that, but maybe I didn't. And just like her level of allowing the men in her life, the wrong men in her life, not her dad, or not that anyone should take control of her, but as far as a role model, where's her cop father in all this? Like she's just hanging out with these guys all the time. Like, I don't know. It's just now as a parent myself and like reading it as a mom myself in her late 30s, it's like, what is happening here?
Right.
So yeah, there was definitely way more red flags in this read than I experienced, in frustration and just like, and her constantly kind of making excuses for him. And then even like in the movie, we'll talk about this in a minute, but like in the movie, you don't get it as bad, anywhere near as bad as you do in the book.
They cut like 400 pages of the book.
Oh, yeah.
And all the shitty stuff,
like,
too.
the Alice sleepover. Yeah, the Alice sleepover, like when her truck like dies and he gets her a car, like it's just like, what,
we can't make Edward look toxic. That's not a selling point for the movies.
Well, on screen.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So I feel like the book for me, I thought Eclipse, I remember I had thought I had liked it a lot more. And I was still really excited for Breaking Dawn. And it was definitely a product of its time. But there were definitely problems with this story, for sure. And things that I didn't see as clearly the first time due to age, due to whatever factors it may be. But now there's some glaring problems with how this whole love trial goes about.
Yeah, I agree.
The triangle, just all of it. There's some issues here.
Right. Jacob he's kind of a dick. Like his vocabulary.
They both are.
And but he's very forward, and he'll tell her like, that's a stupid idea. Like, that's so stupid. Why would you think that? I'm like, she's 18. 18-year-old girls have like zero self-esteem. Like they pretend they do. But they don't, because
Yeah.
they're still, especially Bella, she's like navigating this whole new identity, and she's, let's throw like monsters and shit in there. So obviously she's
Yeah.
like, she doesn't
Well, and
know a
that she's
lot.
like,
Yeah, but
mm-hmm.
they don't need
Well,
to emphasize that. Like, lay it on her gently. But he's a dick through the majority of it. And he's like, wait, I was joking. I'm sorry. And she gets mad. And then they
mm-hmm.
gaslight her. Both of them. They gaslight the shit out of her
Mm-hmm.
the entire time.
Yeah.
And at first, like, I feel like Charlie's presence was stronger in the beginning, because he was like, listen, you need to divide your time with your friends. Like, you need to make sure
Mm-hmm.
you pay attention to Jacob. Jacob's hurting. Like, I saw how he helped you. So, and he obviously doesn't know all the ins and outs, because teenagers keep secrets from their parents. But he was trying to be more present. And of course, in the books, he is more present, but he's not so much. And it's a lot of, single dad, not really knowing how to navigate a teenager. Him and Bella, like, think about how, like, really short their relationship is, even though, like, that's her father. She's been living under his roof for
He's
not
still
even
trying
a
to
year
work it
yet.
out.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot for him
Well, that's
to
what I was
figure
gonna
it out.
say is there's this layer of what we talked about in the first two books too, is this absentee parent situation, and Bella basically having to parent Renee. And she talks about that a lot more in Eclipse too, of nods to how she had to, she had a passport in New Moon because she had to get one because Renee wanted to have a wedding in Mexico, but like that never happened. But she made sure like she got all the documents. Her daughter, who's a teenager, made sure all the documents were in order. And it's like, this is pre major internet, how it is now. This is pre like, it's not how it is today, where things are like so much more fast paced, or knowledge is a lot easier to come by. Her situation that she's in with her parents is a direct result of the situation she's in with these monsters. And I feel like that changes things. If she had super involved parents, like, I don't know that Jacob or Edward would be as much a part of her life as she is. And I wonder if she would have different feelings about all of it.
Right.
So that's my mom perspective now. And I still, I really, I want to like Charlie and I want to like Renee, and I forgive them for being fractured parents. I forgive both of them, but I don't really like them as characters. No. I just don't.
I don't either. For the most part, I don't. I feel like I'm a little bit more forgiving of Charlie, just because it seems like he's trying more than Renee, who just like up and dipped to Jacksonville and is living her happy sunshine life. But I remember at the end of the book, when this is after like the big fight, and Jacob is healing still, and Bella has this conversation with Jacob, and they both talk about how if monsters didn't exist, they would have been together and had a happy life. Like, if things were different completely. And she's like, yeah, I agree. If monsters didn't exist, then Edward would be dead. Edward, he would have died when Spanish influenza was like rampant over the country.
And I would have never met him.
Yeah. And then Jacob would still be human, because he changed into like his tribe that changed into that.
Right.
Because of the vampires. So, which, I buy. That tracks. Technically, take the monsters out of the equation, then they would have lived their life. But there's just so...
Bella would have died, though, in book 1. Remember? I told you. If the car accident hadn't happened in the parking lot, she would have died. She would have died in the opening scene where the kid Tyler, who has nothing to do with monsters, another human kid driving, slips on ice in in his van, and she would have got smashed. She would have been dead. So I don't think she would have ended up with Jacob either. But I still feel like I think it makes a nice bow for the story.
For them to
I don't think it totally works. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was a lot to solidify that, okay, the love triangle is no longer a triangle now. Even though they made out, and the makeout session between Bella and Jacob was like 3 pages, which is way longer than any sort of description that she ever gave for her and Edward. I'm like, interesting. Yeah. This is long. This is a long description. And the tent scene was interesting. The whole warmth, and like, I'm reading this and then I'm watching the movie, And me and my husband are having this conversation of what would be better, to be a wolf or a vampire. And I'm like arguing with him. He's like, he's 109 degrees. Of course he's not warm. He's like, that's stupid. Like, this is why is he letting that happen? I'm like, it's so much better to be a wolf. And he's like, what are you talking about? You could be eternal as a vampire. You have the strength. I'm like, so do you. Except as a wolf, you have the opportunity to end your like monsterness when you're done. And he can go on and age and live his merry life. Whereas like vampires, you're kind of stuck. So, which I'm like, okay. He's like,
which Jacob can still procreate. I mean, he's
still human in a sense.
Yeah.
And then he can, because now he's 25. So, which I had to explain that to my husband. I'm like, he's 25 now. Like, things aren't technically weird between like him and Bella and all of this. And once he feels like he's done his mission, he can stop phasing, and then he can age like a normal person and just live his merry life.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. So when you say he's 25, what do you mean by that?
So I believe Jacob is the one that describes this, that once they initially start phasing, their body rapidly accelerates until they're 25. Like your body, that's when I believe men are like fully matured anyways. And then they stay there until and that's so they're at like peak health. And they stay there for however long, and he describes that ultimately he can stop phasing into a wolf, and it takes time to like slow that down. But once he gets to the point where he stops phasing, then his body goes back into like being a human. So he can actually change into like, grow old and do all that stuff.
Yeah. And so there's talking the book to the movie, that piece of what we find out from the tribe is so limited in the movie.
Yeah.
And you don't really get the full story. You get a little bit, but not a lot. And there's so much more of that in the book, learning about the tribes and learning about how that all works with the spirit, and the spirit separating itself from the body and like becoming the wolf, and like the whole story of how that all happened is very limited in the movie compared to what you get in the book,
because they focused on
just understanding of what happened.
Right, because they just focus on the third wife. That's all they focus on, because that was foreshadowing. So Bella,
the sacrifice.
So that's what they thought was important, just to set up the action. I agree. Like that whole aspect of learning the background of the wolves was really important in the books. And another aspect of the wolves, let's talk about imprinting, because this is when we kind of dive into imprinting here. So what was your perspective on imprinting as a part of wolf culture?
That was tough to read. Again, I think that's in a Ya setting, you can do this type of thing and kind of get away with it a lot more, because what were we talking about? We were texting back and forth talking about like there's a lot of inexperienced romance mindset in that perspective. And I think that can be done in a Ya book. I don't think you'd ever get away with this in an adult fantasy.
Right.
And if you did, you'd have to be really, really careful how you would do this.
Yes. I feel like in general, imprinting was like kind of similar to like fated mates. It's like out of their control. They're destined to be together. However, they introduce imprinting to younger children. So Stephanie Meyer had to be very careful to outline how it's not sexualized when it happens, because it happened to one of the wolves who imprinted on like a 2-year-old cousin of someone in their family. So in the pack. So that's questionable. And Bella even's like, that's disgusting. Like, what? He's like, no, it's not sexualized. He will be her best friend. He'll be, her brother first, then her best friend, then when she comes of age, like boyfriend, then husband. Like he like matures with her, but it's still weird because he is technically 25 and that is a 2-year-old. So obviously we know she's setting up for Breaking Dawn and what's going to happen there in the ending. But it was still, I mean, I understood the the explanation and the reason behind it, it's still weird. Because I feel like
Yeah,
I don't think
it
dogs
is.
imprint. Like I don't think that ducks do. Like, you know, ducks will look at you and be like, "You're my mama," and then I'm gonna follow you around everywhere, and you're gonna have yourself a little waddle. But I don't feel like dogs actually do the whole imprinting
Wolves.
thing.
No,
Right.
it's definitely a liberty. But I think that she had to present this because it's foreshadowing for Breaking Dawn. And
Obviously.
it's
Yeah.
foreshadowing for the way that she's going to tie all these loose ends of like why this all had to happen this way. And she has to be able to like make this neat bow happen here. And that's why we get this piece. But uh,
Still fucking
yeah, I
weird.
mean, I think it is. It's weird. There's no not making it weird, I
Yeah.
don't think. I do want to talk about one other piece, and that's mentioned a lot is Wuthering Heights.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, Wuthering Heights is mentioned so many times. So we knew Romeo and Juliet, classic literature, played a role in New Moon. We see in Wuthering Heights, the book is mentioned in detail many times. And so there's nods to this because you have a similar storyline regarding Heathcliff and Catherine and this almost kind of love triangle story, but it is ultimately a story about like obsessive love and power and social classes and revenge and these impacts that can happen across generations and things like that. And it's interesting because you see so much of that in Eclipse with the difference between Edward and Jacob. There's a social class barrier there. Obviously, Jacob has significantly less in terms of social class financials, all those types of things compared to Edward, and also just the differences between how they carry themselves and what they are at their core. There's a lot of nods to the story as a whole, but Wuthering Heights is brought up so much in the book and really not at all in the film. But it was definitely something that came up many times in the book that I thought was worth mentioning.
Right. She's definitely a literary girly. She got her bachelor's in
Yes.
literature. So she, like Stephanie Meyer, she likes to drop classical references throughout all of her novels, which is fun. I think it's fun. So
Yeah, it is. It's
it
fun.
adds a lot more depth to the story and what she's
And it
trying
does.
to
And
do with the characters.
and I think too it allows a little bit of fucked upness basically because classic literature is full of that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, there's all kinds of crazy shit going on in classic literature.
Oh, yeah.
And so it allows for her nod to where she's kind of getting you ready as the reader. If you're familiar with classic literature, then you know kind of how your story is going to go in a certain direction. You may not spell it out perfectly, but New Moon has tons and tons of nods to Romeo and Juliet. And you see all these different nods again here in Eclipse to Wuthering Heights. So that's something that's worth noting and mentioning of the difference between the books and the movies. I think another part of the books and the movies, like you kind of touched on, that are different is Edward is definitely a lot more off the hook. Like he's given so much more credit in the movie as a character than in this book. Yeah, in this book, he doesn't like let Bella out of his sight at all.
No.
And she kind of accepts this and she isn't like the whole Jacksonville trip at the beginning and just how it's in the movie she stands up for herself so much more and I actually prefer that. I think that's why I think if the movie were actually like the book, I don't know that it would have been as well received because that book was rough in terms of her having any kind of say in anything she did.
Right. But it's true to an 18-year-old with her first romance. That's honestly like real behavior that happens. I can attest to that you look past the red flags and you see in spite of that and like, well, there's justification there because he's just nervous, you know, or he's just worried. And it literally takes him going on a hunt and her having to like evade Alice and leave. And it's giving like, you know, we get our first introduction in the book to a cell phone, even though in the movies they're cell phones, but this is the first introduction. And the only reason why she has a cell phone is so Edward can contact her That's literally the only reason why, to keep tabs on her. And it's giving like, I'm gonna hide my phone from you, so like you don't know what I'm doing because I know you're not gonna like it and you're gonna get mad at me, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Which she should, because she's not doing anything wrong. She's hanging out with her friend. But it's just like that anxiety of I have to hide this part of myself because the person I love doesn't accept that. And it's icky. It's really icky. And the movie definitely cut it out because
her having to ask Edward to go see Jacob and all of that was just way too much.
Right.
Then, of course, you have the fact that she has a job, and that's been since New Moon. She's had a job, and that was completely omitted. Basically, from all the movies, they just cut it out entirely. She worked for
no one
Mike's,
cares.
Parents' store. Yeah,
nobody
cares that she has a job. I think it's fine to cut it, in all honesty, because they pull in a bunch of other things from other action-packed sequences that they line into the movie. I think the only thing that it does is it changes how Bella goes to see Jacob, how she is basically kind of kidnapped by Alice and like makes this quick decision while she's getting off from work because she ends up not having to work that day and gets let go early. And like they have these flyers and she sees one and then she makes a split decision to go see Jacob to try to evade Alice. And it's like none of that was captured in the movie at all. That Alice is like watching her so closely that she can't go anywhere either. She's going to get a Porsche.
Yeah, but that's like, the whole reason why. Or not the whole reason, but she wants a new car. She wants the car from Italy. And Edward promised it to her.
It's just so shallow. Like the whole thing is badly written. It's poorly executed. And I was not here for any of that. Bella just had no autonomy. And I'm glad in the movies that was a change that they implemented and went with when the script was written, because I think that would have fallen very flat on screen, personally.
Right. And you mentioned that
I don't think it would have gone well.
Right. And you mentioned that Edward gets more grace in the movie. And, you know, I referenced the tent scene from earlier. And in the tent scene, after Jacob warms Bella up, Jacob and Edward have this conversation. And Edward and Jacob, they come to an amends really quickly in that conversation. And Edward in the movie makes a comment saying like, you know, if you weren't my mortal enemy, if you smelled better, maybe we'd be friends. Or if you weren't trying to take away the love of my life or my reason for living.
Yeah, the only for existence.
Yeah. And in the book, it definitely doesn't happen like that. They're arguing. He tells them to shut up and to stop thinking and to stop talking.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're still going at it in the tent. So leading up to the kiss, it makes in the movie the kiss between Bella and Jacob seem better, that the two men are, you know, okay with each other. But it doesn't happen like that at all in the book. And I think it was just to give Edward a lot more grace than he honestly deserved in this book, because he was really shitty.
Yeah, and he was not just really shitty, but like the vampire to werewolf like coming together did not happen fast at all.
No.
And they did not start working together like quickly the way that the movie perceives it. This happened over hundreds of pages, and even by the time they started to kind of sort of get along, it is very forced, it's very strained. It's definitely not how it's portrayed in the movie at all.
Right.
I didn't see it that way at all.
No, I didn't. It seemed like the pack was happy to work with them to protect Bella, and that wasn't the case at all. And Edward could hear them. You know, he can hear the pack, because the pack has like a hive mind, a pack mindset. So they all have internal thought, or they have external thoughts that are in the pack, and then internal separate thoughts that are like their own. And Edward can hear every single strain of that, and he knows that they are struggling. They hate being around the wolves. It's just like biologically they're repulsed by each other. So, and it's hard to undo, you know, century or so of being enemies in just like one instance. But obviously, you know, they can't. To be honest, if I read this book when I was 18 or even if I was reading this book leisurely, I would have DNF'd it just because it took so long to get to the wolves working together. And obviously they can't do that in the movie. Things have to happen a quicker pace or they're going to lose the audience. They have 90 minutes to cram all this in this, and this is a fat book. All of her books are pretty fat.
Yeah,
And
it takes too long.
Yeah.
In my opinion, too. And then the struggles with Edward, I'm like, this is just toxic.
And most of it's
good.
an internal monologue from Bella's perspective. And you obviously can't have that in the book. And a lot of the stuff she says out loud. And my husband was even pointing out, he's like, did she think that? Is that why she's saying it? I was like, yeah, she thought that in the book. But she has to say it because that was like she can't have that internal mindset all the time. Even though they do have like a narrator, Bella as a narrator over some scenes, it can't be all the time. So.
No, right. Yep. And there's the score for the film was really good. The visual effects were good. You have a actor swap with the actress playing Victoria. The original cast actress was Rochelle Lefevre, and she was replaced with Bryce Dallas Howard. So there were some different studio changes that were made. But overall, the opening with understanding who we don't really get that full backstory of who Riley is from Eclipse. We don't have that in the book. There's a lot of elements that are action-packed sequences that are not part of the whole thing, including we also get Rosalie and Jasper's stories. Jasper's story was pretty close, but there were a lot of differences in how long he stayed with Maria and some of the stories there and what took place. And then for Rosalie, her story was different too, but I also part of me wanted to DNF at that part too, because I felt like Rosalie's story fell flat for me.
Right.
There was no description of what happened to her. Like, what did they do to her? What do you mean they left you in the street for dead? And like they say that verbatim in the film, but it's like, what did they do?
Right. Well,
what did they do to leave you in the street? And why would Royce King, you're supposed to be married to you, like do that? I don't know. The story to me like lacked depth. It really did. Rosalie's story I thought could have been a lot better. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the book, it was like, because it said that it sounded like they assaulted her both sexually and physically.
Oh, yeah.
And then just left her there. But there was no description of that. I think because it's a YA, she had to leave that off page because that's pretty graphic because, I liked in the book description, it goes into how shallow she is. And because, she's very vain and she accepts that. She's like, I had a happy, shallow little life. And this is why you shouldn't turn into a vampire, because I was happy. I knew I was silly in this world where I was beautiful and perfect. And I had this man. I was going to do the marriage thing. I was going to have kids and I was going to be content and it's going to be great. And he ends up being a drunk murderer. And I did like how she got to get her revenge on that. That was pretty detailed. Yeah, that she left him for last. But there was some personality quirks because Rosalie has as she's describing this, she's having a flashback in her head. And Bella even comments how she pauses a lot and forgets herself. She's actually reliving the moments. And she goes into how she's like, oh, I only killed 5 people. I'm almost as good as Carlisle because she killed 5 people. And these are the people who assaulted her. And she's like, wait, actually 7 because I killed the 2 guards too. So, and it's her personality is lacking in the movie. And I don't know if they do that. And I feel like it's like that with a lot of the characters because Emmett's supposed to be funny and lovable. Emmett is goofy, funny, lovable in the book. And I feel like all of them are more stony. And I don't know if that's because they're trying to perceive that's how vampires are, but that's not how any of those characters are written in the book. With Jasper's story, I'm sorry, he got turned in 1861. You're going to still have a thick Southern accent hundreds of years later. That bothered me in the movie. You still talk not just you're Southern, but you're old school, centuries old Southern with I can't even do it.
He just didn't want to give it up. The life.
It just
he didn't want to give it up.
No one else has a thick accent. Why do you still have an accent? It just bothered me.
He didn't want to let go. Yeah.
He has to, so he can, be happy with Alice. That's what's holding him back. His accent. Change the accent, he'll be happy again.
Yeah, there is the movie. I felt like lacked depth of how Bella felt more conflicted about Jacob. It's very clear that she wants Edward, but when she's with Jacob, there is more conflict in how she's feeling than is described in the film. I felt like on page there was more conflict when she was actually with him, even though she definitely still wanted to always be back with Edward. It seemed like there was more of that conflict in the book versus the film, and that in the film it was like this last minute Jacob, like, have him come back to her so he doesn't get hurt type of thing.
Oh my gosh, the whole thing is like, don't leave me. It's like, girl, he just found out you're getting married. Like, to him, he's just like, okay, done deal. Like, you're officially like, at that point there's no chance at us. So he didn't realize that was happening so quickly, and how permanent marriage is, even more so than like her wanting to turn into the vampire, which like kind of shows how like backwards Bella's thinking is, because everyone else is like, marriage is so permanent, and she's like, nah, vampire is, which she's right, but like marriage is like nothing to her. So that whole scene, and like her like almost like wanting to die from it, I'm like, you can't have both. You cannot. I know you want to. No, but you can't have both. And it's not
a wide choose.
It's not, and
in this case,
but like most things in life aren't wide choose. Unfortunately, right. Like, you have to make a choice here, and she struggles so hard because her entire life she's like people pleasing and all that, and she acknowledges very much so in the book how she loves Jacob. And even that she's like, I am kind of in love with you, but not so much as Edward. Like, they even have that conversation of like, yes, there's actually romantic feelings here. It's just not as strong as Edward. I'm like, that's so fucked up. Like, she tells him that, and she tells him that I probably shouldn't tell you. I'm just like, you probably shouldn't have told him.
Of course, but that's classic at that age too.
Right.
Of like having all this conflict and not being able to really, because that's the thing too, is like, you know better sort of at that age, but you still like want to get your thoughts out. And once you get older, you start to realize, like, from an empathy standpoint, does this have any value to the other person?
Nope.
And if it doesn't, then maybe I shouldn't say it. Like, everything I think doesn't necessarily need to be said out loud.
Right.
And I can on page and in the film, that worked for me because these characters are young and they're going to do and say things that are young.
Right.
So that did work, but it just, I like the movie better than the book for me by far.
I did too.
If I had to choose.
And I wish we got the epilogue, because epilogue's actually in Jacob's perspective, which we don't get anyone else's perspective but his. And it's after, she tells him like, no, I like, she makes her choice, and how he is actually dealing with that turmoil and him actually running into the woods and not wanting to return. And that's how it ends. Like, the entire book ends with Jacob's perspective. So I wish we actually got that instead of it ending like happily from Bella and Edward's perspective.
Yeah, agree. That is something that the books hit on that the movie missed the mark on. But overall, like, to get to that, I had to read all those pages before I got to like that better. I'm just saying, like, that it was a struggle. This book was a struggle for me. Very rare that I like the film more than the book. Very rare that I like the film more than the book. And in this case, that's what happened here. I enjoy the film Eclipse much more than the book. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I can't think
of specifically of a time where
in YA and fantasy and like just romance,
in any genre, I've read, I usually always prefer the book. So this is a rare one-off where I definitely preferred the film over the book itself.
And like you mentioned earlier, there was just a lot of angst. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of internal feelings. There was a lot of toxic energy. There was just a lot of just teenage shit. And I'm too old. We were texting back and forth. You're like, you're too old to be reading this, because I was just making so many comments. I'm like, what is going on here? Especially when they were negotiating about the whole marriage, sex thing because Bella wants to have
Oh, yeah.
sex before she turns, and he's like, well, I want marriage first. And that whole negotiation process, I was just like, what the fuck? What? Why is
And
this a
also, like, he
conversation?
can barely even kiss you, girl. Like, what are you talking about?
But also curious logistics, which we're gonna get. I mean, I'm sure we're not gonna get that much in Breaking Dawn. I don't know because I've never read it, so I don't know what
I
amount
will not
is
spoil this for
right.
you.
I'm sure there's gonna be much off page, but I'm just saying, in order for sex to occur, blood has to flow to a certain appendage, right, for it to go meow. And
Mhm.
Edward
How's
technically
it go, Michelle?
meow. Edward technically dead, technically very, very cold. Girl's getting railed by an icicle. I swear, like that could not be comfortable.
Yeah.
I
No.
not.
And well, so what was said is like he has certain bodily fluids still. So like he has venom, and then
Is his whole
he's able to
body
procreate.
venom?
And this was something that
Is his old?
no, but
Okay.
because he has venom as one bodily fluid.
I know.
And then he
but
has
what's going
sperm
to his
apparently as another bodily fluid.
the sperm isn't
Sperm,
what,
I guess.
but the sperm isn't what makes it go up. Like that's just
Well, no, it doesn't. No, I know. Maybe it's just permanently like that, but we never hear about that.
okay. That now
Like
I'm
he's good at hiding it. Does it wear like a oversized pants or something?
nah.
I don't know. I
He's
don't
not
think we get a
because
graphic
even if it's
description
like
of how this actually happens. And this is the thing, is that's where we go back to a YA reader. I love YA books, and I'm not saying that you should be limited by age, but it is young adult on purpose.
Right.
And so there's definitely a factor to off page and why we're not going to get the details because
them, though.
I mean, some of them may not make sense.
I need them.
So
I
it's
need
just
them
like
to
we
make
just
sense to me.
I know.
Well, but okay, so
I just might not get them.
okay, so Edward has sperm, right? Rosalie makes a
Mhm.
comment that her and Emmett can never, like, she can't have the kids. So why
Right.
can the boys have the sperm, but the girls can't have the ovaries?
I
That's
don't know.
another thing.
And
Like,
why would they be able to procreate if they
So that's one part that bothered me. Now that we're
Yeah.
talking about it, I'm like, why can't, if he can make a baby with a human because his vamp penis has sperm still, why can't she still have the ovaries that make the vamp baby?
I don't know. It's terrible.
And that's
honestly.
so sad because that's
And
the only thing
it's
she
kind
wanted.
of a massive plot hole.
Yeah,
I think it's a plot hole, in my opinion, because there's no justification for that. So,
No.
like, what's the point here?
unless it's
of
her
that?
specifically and it had to do with like what happened to her, you know, like how she was murdered.
Well, you mean Rosalie?
Yeah, Rosalie. Unless it's
maybe,
Rosalie
but-
specific because she's the only one that wanted kids. So,
No,
but
because
then
Alice would have had a kid by now.
right, and
You know, this doesn't make sense.
technically Esme, she's always wanted a kid and never happened. Yep, nope,
Yeah,
doesn't
they
make
would have all
sense.
had kids.
That doesn't make sense.
No, so why can a guy vampire impregnate a human, but
A girl vampire
You
can't
know,
get
the
pregnant.
same if girl vampire?
need
can't?
answers.
It just doesn't.
Nope, I need him.
We'll
Rosalie.
circle back in Breaking Dawn for this one. Let's transition now to the pop culture and facts that were going on at this time. So, Twilight Saga Eclipse released as a film in June of 2010. So, to put in perspective, it became one of the top grossing films, of course, in 2010, but also one of my favorite films ever, which I went to go see as well. The following month in July, directed by Christopher Nolan, who is one of my favorite directors, Inception premiered. And this film, I'm sorry, but Twilight is
mind-blowing.
just not hold a candle to Inception. There is no comparison. Sandra Bullock wins the Academy Award for The Blind Side.
I
as
love
Best
that movie.
Actress, which was a great movie.
I love. If I want to cry,
Avatar.
if you want to cry,
Yeah.
just watch The Blind Side.
Oh, I love The Blind Side.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. Avatar was released in 2009 at the end of the year. I remember this specifically being at the end of the year because I think they had pushed it. It was a Christmas release. I remember this. And that one, that was in the box office forever. Avatar was in you could go see it for like the longest time. They just kept renewing it.
They don't do that nowadays.
In music during, no, not really. It's a different era now with when things go to the movies versus then. Then just more pop culture references. Lady Gaga's The Fame Monster. She wears her meat dress to the VMAs, which was iconic at the
Uh-huh.
time. So her song Bad Romance is blaring everywhere at this time, and
Oh.
she wears the meat dress, which if you want to know who's great at marketing, it's Lady
Oh
Gaga
yeah.
because she knows what she's doing to get attention and to spark conversation.
Hmm.
Taylor Swift, speaking of Swifties from our
Hmm.
shirts, Wreck My Plans. Of course, that's a Taylor Swift nod. At this time in October 2010, she releases her Speak Now album, and it is more of like a country popish
That's like
crossover.
her
This sparked
last
a lot of
country,
controversy.
but that's her last like
Yeah, it was her last like full
predominantly
country.
country,
Yeah.
yeah, album.
This is Taylor Swift like pretty early in her career still
Mhm.
before a lot of controversy happened. But even now in Speak Now, this is when she's first starting to kind of like talk out against the people that have said things to her even more so. And of course, she gets flack for this in general, but
How dare she
having
speak?
her, yeah, she is starting to become even more iconic and prevalent even then in 2010.
Mhm.
And she'll, of course, start to solidify her rise to the top as she continues her career. But yep, so Speak Now.
And then
What about
Justin
then?
Bieber, Baby was released in January 2010. And I don't know about you. I was a believer. And I know,
I was not.
well, in
No.
2010, because Justin Bieber's my age. He's actually like a year older than me. So he would have been too
Okay.
young
Yeah, that
for
would be why.
you. So
Yes,
I
he
was
was.
definitely a
Yep.
believer. I love Justin. But yeah.
No, he was too young for me.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
in January 2010, I was out of college. So that for me was not going to be a thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought he was cute, like as a kid. Like
Yeah. The
I don't
hair
know. I
flip,
didn't like think of it like that.
his
Oh
hair,
yeah. I
like
mean, all of it.
all of high school,
I,
all you saw. Like my husband had, I look at his pictures from high school. He had the Bieber hair flip. He says it's not the Bieber hair
of
flip, but
course.
he definitely did have the Bieber hair
Oh
flip.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, and then too, like now thinking back, I just wonder how much he went through with
Oh,
everything
he
that
went
went on
through
with Diddy and all that stuff. Oh yeah.
a lot.
It's a different lens that I'm looking through that now
If you hear
to then.
right, and if you listen to his newer releases, he actually just released an album last week about, and a lot of it had to do with his wife and being a father and having a baby. But his album before that talks a lot about how a lot of what he experienced as a kid and being in the limelight and really struggling, but no one seeing it, and people saying that, oh, you're just a spoiled kid. That's why, you're getting your tattoos. I remembered he got like a DUI in France and wasn't allowed back. And he went through a lot that everyone overlooked. And it
Oh, and
also
the
makes me
massive
think,
breakup.
right, with Selena. And
Oh yeah. That was
it
a whole
just,
thing.
all of this coming to light. And right now, we're actually seeing a lot of stars, TV, pop stars, speaking out about their experiences as a kid, as a
Hmm.
child star, and the abuse they went through.
Netflix
And
series. Yeah.
and it's just it. I go back and look at watch those shows, and it just breaks my heart because they're just babies.
Yeah.
They're just kids. When you're 14, 15, you're trusting the adults around you, and they're using you for their own gain. It just it's heartbreaking what a lot of child stars go through, and it shouldn't be that way.
Agreed.
That got really dark.
Yeah, it did. It got dark really fast. That's very true. So Instagram launches in October of 2010.
Really?
And it starts up and nobody kind of knows what to do with it at this point.
Or
But
still Facebook.
keeping up with the and starts to come out and expands with more media attention. We have the Winter Olympics in 2010 in Vancouver, Canada. And the iPad is initially introduced in April of 2010, which begins tablets as a whole, which has changed everything in so many ways, especially for children. And then we're talking about too how Eclipse and Twilight kind of contributes to pop culture and what it also did, regardless of our issues with the storyline itself for Eclipse in particular. It did help cement vampires and werewolves back into the mainstream consumption of media in popularity, because historically there has always been, even in literature, vampires, werewolves, that kind of thing. But we really did see this like huge rise
Mm.
because of Twilight in other young adult ways. So like the CW had the Vampire Diaries and Teen Wolf comes out later. And so the commercial success of this fiction in particular, and we talk about this too in the previous episode, it can't be ignored how the influence of Twilight really helped cement other really, really large paranormal romances in the early and mid 2000s to be able to be made. So there's definitely a lot that I think the popularity of Twilight contributed to. Modern love triangle. This Team Edward, Team Jacob was huge. People had t-shirts, people argued about it. Eclipse only further drew this point across. The actors for these films were everywhere. Edward versus Jacob, Team Edward. Even now, you say Team Edward versus Team Jacob, and everyone knows what you're talking about. They all know it's a Twilight reference. It is a commonly known thing.
Right.
But even within knowing that, there's other this whole dystopian world kind of starts to come about later with Hunger Games, and even Shadowhunters comes out. But, you have Hunger Games, Divergent series. It really set the tone that a book series, even in the genre, could really make a lot of money, and a lot of people would be interested in watching them.
Right. And
so those are some nods there.
Right. And how love triangles are actually something that people want to read and want to watch. So the Hunger Games, there's a little bit of a love triangle going on there. And with the City of Bones, Immortal Instruments, Shadowhunters, that's what the show became. There's also, if you get further into the books, there's more love triangles there. So it solidified how it is really entertaining for us as consumers to want to pick a side and want our side to be right. Like, we as humans, we love choosing sides and we love having our side be the right side, and it just creates this dynamic that we just eat the shit up. So, but yeah, Eclipse just really emphasized that and helped other authors and other stories gain traction there. And then also there's empowering and critiquing female narratives. And I know we go into how at the beginning of the book, Bella's voice is a little bit silenced. Not a little bit, a lot of it silenced. But Bella ultimately has her choice in the end, and she has the will to make the choice. It is criticized for portraying a passive female because, honestly, females are the ones consuming these books for the most part. For YA, for fantasy, the majority of the consumers are females, and we don't want to see a passive female. We want to see a strong female who says fuck you to those controlling her. So there was a lot of controversy there, but this controversy sparked wider conversation about how females should be represented and why. I think that's why we have in modern fiction, modern fantasy, we have a lot more strong MCs who maybe were physically weak, but mentally they were stronger. I'm thinking for Fourth Wing.
Sarah Sfain. We have
Oraya.
Nesta, Oraya, Misha. Who else? Just to name a few. There's even
Violet.
Violet. Throne of Glass. You have so many in Throne of Glass. Crescent City, you have Bryce and Danica. I mean, you just have a lot more different, stronger females now than you read about then. And this could be, seen as a turning point of what women want to read about and could have changed the narrative there. And on that note, this fan community and online fandom, there was somewhat of this for Harry Potter at the time as well. But Twilight fandom kind of knows no bounds and is really, really still to this day massively popular, which is also kind of why I named the drink Winter Camp, because it's campy. It has this huge, massive base. Twilight just has that whole thing going on, but the global fan engagement, I mean, these guys were treated like rock stars, like really. I mean, the level that Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart, and Taylor Lautner were on at this time there aren't really words to describe the level of fandom that surrounded them throughout these movies. It just was mind-blowing.
Mhm.
And it's still contributing to their lives today. Also, fan fiction, fan art, forums, social media, all of these things are still going on today in large amounts and consumed in large amounts by the entire community. And that says something to the campy nature of what it is that we've talked about with Kayla, our author, who we have on for Twilight, and also what we talked about in our other interview with Faraday and Mandy. But it's this ability that, because it was so massive, I think it also has a special place in the millennial heart, and also that's transcended into generations that have come after us, and which is really exciting to see them enjoy this Twilight community as a whole as well.
Yeah, it's fun to see 15-year-olds still rocking the Breaking Dawn shirt, love the Team Edward, Team Jacob shirt. It's really fun. It's like, you weren't born yet, but you can still be a part of it. But okay,
we're happy that you're here. Yeah, exactly. So there's all these different things that came up with talking about marital values and the woman's right to choose that came up at this time, and consent, and talking about some emotional health.
Oh, we need a lot of that.
That book, while yes, you could say a lot of those things were addressed, I think that there were also a lot of things that were very behind the times, and definitely behind today's times and standards of what a female main character would be written as today. I don't know that the way Bella was written on page in the movie, fine. In the book, though, I just don't know that that would have worked out as well as it did then to today.
I don't think so either. All right. Well, now it's time for Mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking.
From a millennial nostalgia perspective on technology, what is something that you really liked from a technology standpoint that we don't have anymore?
Something that I liked that we don't have. In my mind, I'm going through all the technology I have, like winding backwards. I honestly, and this probably sounds very counterculture, I wish I wasn't so connected. Like, my phone, I can do everything on my phone, right? I'm easily accessible all the time, and it's so distracting. And I kind of sometimes I miss my little flip phone that I can just text you on, shut it, throw it, bye. I have to worry about breaking my $1,600 phone because this is all I should have right now because that's what's available. And I miss that. I also miss my Game Boy. I miss it being socially acceptable to carry around a Game Boy. Because it's not socially acceptable.
I wouldn't give two shits if you did. But I miss my OG iPod. Because I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I really miss like that I could go to the gym or just like only have music.
And you'd have to like spun the wheel.
Mine was green.
Oh, mine was green.
Yeah, mine was green. His name was Reptar. It was green. His name was Reptar. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And you could spin the wheel, and yeah, you had all your music on there. But I mean, of course, we were like on Napster and all these other sites we shouldn't be on, but that's besides the point. So,
I broke my brother's computer.
I don't miss any of that.
With LimeWire. I remember it. My brother literally, I was downloading a song from, I don't remember what fucking song it was. And I downloaded a virus and the whole computer crashed. And my dad was so pissed. He's like, what'd you do? I'm like, I was just downloading music. He's like, what the fuck? Because you got me an iPod and it needs music on it. I'm not paying $1.99 on iTunes. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of money back then. It wasn't like it is now where you had like these memberships and all this kind of stuff. Like that was not a thing then. I mean, I think what I missed about having the iPod was, and then they advanced it to where like they had the really small iPod where it didn't even have a screen because people just want. Yeah, I didn't have that one. I had the one that had like the screen.
I had the shuffle.
But I loved my. Yeah, yes, the shuffle. And I loved my iPod. And I think what I liked about it versus now is like, yeah, I can still listen to music on any app or whatever on my phone. But again, you're still on your phone. And there's no way to like, I don't want the cellular piece. I just want to listen to my music. That's it. And you used to have to plug in, the iPod into your computer to download the music because it didn't connect to Wi-Fi or anything like that. That was not a thing. It had to be like manually plugged in.
If you ran out of space, you had to figure out which to delete. and
Yeah,
like
what are you
make your
gonna
playlist.
delete?
Yeah.
You gotta make your playlist. Yes, you had to burn your little CD onto your. It was a whole process.
Hmm.
And I kind of miss the art of the simplicity of just having that
The one
available.
thing instead of
So yeah,
having
so I miss
all
iPods.
of this. Like and it's a blessing, right? Because I remember in
Of course,
school,
no, no, no. Yeah,
having
this
to
is
do
just
basic
like
math and be like, you'll never have a
wishful
calculator
thinking.
on
Yeah.
you. And, here we
Oh
are with
yeah.
calculators
Oh yeah,
and
I remember that.
shit. I can have an
Way
encyclopedia
beyond that.
on me at all times. But yeah, I agree. It was such a simple time back then. But we were living in the early 2000s. We it didn't feel simple, right? It felt like, wow, we have so much. There's so much going on in our worlds and all this new technology, because it was new, but technology has grown exponentially since then that it seems so much simple. But like, I mean, think about the Game Boy. Game Boy didn't even have a backlight. I had to buy a light to plug into my Game Boy so
Oh
it would
yeah.
cast on it. So when
Hmm.
I'm like playing in my room when I
Yeah.
shouldn't be, I can see what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
let's see.
Well,
My
that
question for
was
you.
yeah. Yeah, I want to hear it. Go
Okay, my
ahead.
question for you is, what is on the same frame of nostalgia, what is like your nostalgia comfort food,
Oh,
like from your childhood?
yeah. I immediately thought of Mondo's, the drink. Do you
Okay.
remember Mondo's?
No.
But they weren't good. So like I think I just thought of them because they were nostalgic, but they weren't
Okay.
really a nostalgic for me. I think that the one thing that I remember from my childhood that is a comforting thing. This is off on a weird tangent, but Taco Bell used to have this thing called a Mexi Melt on their menu. They don't have it anymore and they don't make it anymore. And even if they did, I couldn't eat it anymore. But we didn't have a lot. And I was raised by a single father in my teen years. My mom was not fully in the picture for a lot of reasons and made the dinner and stuff beforehand or whatever. My father tried his hand at cooking, not great. But
Like Charlie.
anyway, on the menu, yeah, to a certain extent. And so like on the menu, they used to have like one of the cheaper items on the Taco Bell menu was this thing called a Mexi Melt. And it had everything. It had like all the major food groups. It had the cheese, it had the pico, it had the beef, and then it was really like on a smaller rolled one.
Mhm.
And I liked it because the cheese was like melted. So it was a kind of smush, like a panini style, a
Okay.
little bit, but not like actually smush, but it was melted versus like a soft taco.
Right.
The Mexi melts were like had more flavor anyway. That's what I thought of.
Okay.
That was my final answer. And they don't make them anymore. And it's sad for me that those don't
Yeah.
exist anymore.
Oh.
But
Okay.
those were great.
So mine, I think they still have them for mine. But this was when I was a kid, back when my parents weren't divorced, we would go to Disney and we would have to get up early because we didn't live in Orlando at that time. We were like
Right,
almost an hour
right.
outside the city, so it was like a whole big day thing. We would go to Disney, we would go to Universal, and every time we would go, I would get really excited because we would stop at McDonald's for breakfast, and I would always get
Oh,
the
nice.
breakfast burritos.
Oh,
And
those are so good.
those are so good. I think they still make them. I don't really know. I haven't had breakfast at McDonald's in like forever.
How did we both pick like
I
burrito-ish items?
don't but like that's just I
That's funny.
when I thought of this the other day too, I'm like, man, because we were talking about,
I don't
taking,
know if they still have breakfast burritos.
I don't
I haven't
know.
had a McDonald's breakfast in such a long time that
No.
I don't know if they do or not.
Well, we are talking
Should
about
check
going
into
to
that.
like theme parks and stuff. Me and my husband were,
Hmm.
and I was just like, man, we would go to theme parks, we would get a breakfast burrito, and it's just like that's just stuck in my head. Not the actual Disney experience, but knowing when we were going to
You
theme
just want a
parks,
breakfast
I would
burrito.
get a breakfast burrito from McDonald's.
Is that the pregnancy talking now? You need the
Probably.
breakfast burrito?
I don't
Yeah,
think I
that's
actually want
probably
to eat
right.
it, but no, I mean, I worked at
That's fair.
McDonald's for like 2.5 years.
Oh, I didn't know
When
that.
I turned 18, yeah, when I turned 18, got a job at McDonald's, saved up for I had a dinky little Chevy Malibu that I bought with cash. So from working at McDonald's, and I can't eat McDonald's food very often, just because
Oh,
there's too many memories that just
that's
no.
fair.
But the breakfast burrito when I was like 9, that was gold.
Peak. Yeah. You know what I also miss that I don't eat a lot of anymore? Cereal. I freaking used to love cereal.
That's comfort food.
Cereal was like a major food group too.
Yeah.
But I used to like eat cereal all the time. Like after school, I would grab a bowl of cereal. It's like the quick snack and still satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't eat a lot of cereal anymore, mostly because I don't, have milk. So it's not as satisfying.
But
I mean, oat milk is fine,
too.
but it's not as satisfying.
Like nowadays, if you want to get the good stuff, it's like $7 a box. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive for like little crunchy pebbles.
I should probably look into it.
Well, my daughter, she'll like crave cereal sometimes. Like she goes through those like weird cravings. Like I want Frosted Mini Wheats every day for 2 weeks, and then I never want to see them again. So we'll like go through cereal occasionally. But yeah, there were commercials on TV, like the Reese's Puff commercials and like the theme song, the Apple Jacks one. That was just like really big. I feel like it was bigger in the early 2000s because there was commercials for all the different types of cereal. And the Cookie Crisp one.
Well, it's because we were watching kids stuff.
Uh-huh.
Now you don't watch the kids stuff, so now you don't get the kids cereal commercials anymore.
I mean, I still watch the kids stuff.
That's what it is.
I have the kiddo, so.
Yeah, that's true. But you watch it, you consume it differently.
Commercials
the media
anymore.
It's not the same.
Just stream it on Disney.
Yeah, I remember. I vividly remember sitting at the table reading the back of the cereal carton.
Yes, because there were puzzles on there and stuff like that, or like there was a treat at the bottom, or like a toy at the bottom. So you have to get to the bottom of the cereal so you can get like the collectible toy. And then cutting box tops was like a big thing in collecting them at schools.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
Yeah, it was like a cultural.
Yeah, and then nowadays these kids, they don't read the box of cereal.
No.
They have a tablet or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
They're missing out.
Great questions, as always.
Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Next week, we're going to be diving into Breaking Dawn. We are not breaking it up into multiple episodes, so we'll cover both of the movies and the book as a whole. We will also have a special guest interview with Natalie from Not Just Cakes joining us, so very excited for that. Hit that subscribe button to hear more of our exciting book talk, and we're looking forward to dissecting this novel with you.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Eclipse or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or a message on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
You can also visit our website, bookclubafterdark.co, stay up to date on our cozy content, and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.